YouTube, what's happening? It is Wednesday, July 3rd. You can see we have a full slate of baseball today. Not your typical Wednesday. There's no real day games. Everything's night games. Day games are for tomorrow for the holiday. So drop a like, subscribe, and share if you haven't. I'm trying to grow this channel. The ones that are here, you guys are awesome. I love all the interaction we're getting, but I want to share. I want to grow more, get this data out to more people. And I appreciate everything you do to help out. So also, let's do a little recap of yesterday. Lots of colors, looking like Christmas over here. 9 and 8. If you followed me for the Nerfies, you went 3 and 0. If you followed me for the props, you went 5 and 2. If you followed me for everything else, you went 1 and 6. So it was a mixed bag of treats. So someone commented Nerfie's probably the most satisfying bet to hit. I think I agree with that because something about hitting a Nerfie 6 outs and you get to relax and you can turn the game off if you want. Who cares? Because you hit it. Oh, it was so nice. So you can see 9 and 8, lost the juice. Whatever. Plus 2.4 units last week, 38 the last 30, still 72 on the season, doing good. Again, drop a like, subscribe, share, let people know, and let's go ahead and jump into that first game for the day. All right, first game, we got Boston and Miami. We got Bello 7 and 5 up against Rogers 1 and 8. Nerfy, no run first inning. 53.2 based on what they've done this year. Looking over at the odds, we can see Boston's a moderate favor on the road. 8.5 sorry, total across the board. The bats, though, are pretty much equal. There's a 0.3 difference in runs. There's a 24-point difference in batting average. So Boston has a slight advantage, if you want to call it that, in the offense. And they're both striking out 9 times a game. That's average. No. So looking over at the pitching, Rogers is going out there for Miami. You can see his game log. These aren't bad numbers. Let's be honest. These are decent numbers. Overall, he didn't face Boston, but none of these are bad numbers. So Bello, on the other hand, dude hands out runs like he's throwing beads at Mardi Gras. Anybody can get one if you ask. So you can see he hands them out. Toronto roughed him up. The White Sox roughed him up. Gave up 4 with 8 hits to Detroit. The Yankees got 4 on him. 3. You can see the dude gives up runs. That's what he does. So one thing I want to look at is I want to pop over to Outlier and we're going to look at his props. And I want to look at his earned runs. And this is Outlier if you're new, if you haven't seen this before. Outlier, I partner with them because I wanted a way to give you guys prop stats. I want stats. You guys want props. This is the best way to do it. They're awesome. Stuff's amazing. If you want a trial, check out the link in the description. I appreciate it. But you can see it, Bello. This is the only thing I want to look at because his earned runs is over 2.5, but it scares me away because it's plus 130. If he gives up runs so much, why is it such heavy juice on the plus? Like, why are we getting so much value here? That makes me wonder things. So typically I would take this if it was like 110, but that scares me away. It's almost like the odds makers are expecting him to throw a gem today, finally. A dude who's given up 5.33, 4.5, 4.27 is going to throw a gem. I can't. There's something fishy here. I don't like it. So, and Rogers, there's no props to really look at, so we're not going to look at those. So going back to the odds, I'm not going to take Boston on the money line because we don't trust Bello. I'm not taking a total because odds makers think Bello's going to throw a gem, apparently. So we're not taking a total here, and I'm not taking props. So this entire game is just going to be a pass, and we're going to move on to the next one. All right, next up, we got the White Sox and the Guardians. You can see Fed with a 5 and 3 up against Williams, who's making his first action of 2024. So we have no stats on him. And around here, if it's your first action of the year and your name's not Paul Skeens, we are fading you hard. Nerfy, 53.9. Based on what you've done this year, that's probably going to be a pass. Looking at the odds, we see that Cleveland's a heavy favorite, even though we got somebody pitching for the first time. 8.5s across the board for the totals. Bats, slight advantage Chicago from the looks of it. 7 versus 5.3 on their last 3 games on the runs. 265 versus 235 in their last 3 games. Now, given, let's be honest, of those 3, 2 were against Colorado, so they have a little bit of help there. So, but either way, they scored 6 and batted 257 yesterday. So this may not be just because it was Colorado. So maybe Chicago starting to heat up a little bit. And 9.7 strikeouts for both sides, no advantage there. So we have Chicago statistically with the bats, with the bat advantage. Pop over to the pitching. We have one to look at. Feddy, however you say it. You can see has not faced Cleveland since down here on the 9th. 6 innings, 6 hits, only 3 strikeouts. And he also faced him in April, 4-5-4. So he's faced, this will be his 3rd time facing them this year. So they're used to each other now. So if anything, that gives the hitters more of an advantage. And the only thing I really see looking at his stats here, he's got good numbers. Nothing really stands out. He doesn't give up that many runs. He doesn't strike out that many people. Look, pop over to Outlier so we can look at his stuff. His strikeouts, he's hit the number 7 out of 10 times, but he's facing Cleveland. And the last time he faced Cleveland, he only struck out 3 people. So that's 1 of his last 10. That's, I don't know. And you can see on batting, Cleveland's only striking out 9.7 for 20th. I like them to be in that 25 to 30 range where they're hitting double-digit strikeouts a game before we really start doing it, like 12, like a Seattle and Oakland type, something like that. So we're going to lay off that. But the rest of it, pop back over here. Earned hits, nothing stands out. Earned runs, nothing standing out. To me, there's nothing standing out. And I don't have anything on the other guy because Williams, we can look at his number. His name's Gavin Williams. He's 6'6", 250. In 23, he was 3.29 with a 1.26. This was his games. He had pretty good stats outside the game against LA. Pretty good numbers, let's be honest. But it's his first game. We fade teams like that around here. So with the odds being what they are, we're not taking Cleveland money line because we don't trust his first start. He might be a beast, but we don't. His name ain't Paul Skeens, so I don't care. We're gonna fade that. I ain't putting money on Chicago. Chicago could very easily win this game today, very easily, but I'm not gonna put money on it. Total 8.5. I don't trust. I don't trust it. I just can't. To me, there's nothing standing out in this game. And then the fact that we have a pitcher I don't know nothing about, that makes it even harder. So again, just like the last one, this entire game is going to be a pass. Let's move on to the next one. All right, next up, we got St. Louis and Pittsburgh. We got Mikolas 6-7 versus Jones 5-6. Nerfy, no runs first inning, 59.4 based on what they've done this year. Looking at the odds, we see that Pittsburgh's a slight favorite at home. 8.5 are your total out there across the board. The bats favor St. Louis slightly. 4.3 versus 3 in their runs in their last 3. 264 versus 198. Big advantage St. Louis when it comes to batting average. 10.3 versus 10.7. Both teams are striking out a good bit. So we will look at some strikeout props also. So we can see St. Louis has the advantage when it comes to the bats. Popping over to pitching though, we have Miles out there. And Miles got, as you can see, just destroyed in his last game. 12 hits, 9 earned. Before that, 6-4. He faced Pittsburgh on the 11th of June. 7-inning, 1-hit gem of a game he had. So, and strikeout 6, which is his highest number. He's not really a strikeout dude. So we can see he has potential to do great, and he's facing Pittsburgh again. But can you back someone who just came off a game like this? I don't know. I don't think I can. I don't know. So that's concerning. So that makes me not want to take St. Louis money line. Jones, on the other hand, 3.66 with a 1.10, hasn't faced St. Louis, but you can see he got roughed up by Colorado a little bit, roughed up by Detroit a little bit, and then other than that, pretty good game. So to me, the pitchers are pretty much equal. Maybe a slight advantage to Jones because he hasn't had a game where he's given up 1,000 runs to a team, but what can you do? So, and Pittsburgh has already seen Miles. They didn't do much when they saw him, but hey, they've already seen him. So, and anytime you see him, the hitter has the advantage second time around, albeit a slight advantage. So, with it being like it is, the odds, I'm not taking St. Louis because I can't trust taking a pitcher who has given up this stat line. His last outing, I need to see what he does in the bounce back. I need to see, does he go back to a game like this, or does he come back to something like this? Those things matter, so we're going to skip on that. So we're going to pass on that. We're not going to take Pittsburgh on the money line either because, as we saw, St. Louis has the advantage with the bats. I don't trust that either. Over-unders are not going to be in play because, again, we don't know what we're going to get these pitchers. Miles pitched a gem against Pittsburgh and also gave up 10 runs to Cincy. We don't know what we're going to get, so it's up in the air. I am going to look at some props a little bit, though. Strikeout props, we can see his number is 4.5 for strikeouts. His number was the best he had in the past 6-7 games. It's been 6 twice, and one of them was against Pittsburgh. So that's something. That's a small window to work with. I don't think I can play with that. That's not enough there. So the one thing I am going to do though, Jones hits. Dude has given up hits a lot, and we know St. Louis bats are they're pretty hot right now. You can see they're 16th in runs, but they're 10th in batting average, which I like to see. And when you got somebody giving up runs like this, that's 7 out of 10 games. He's giving up at least this. The number's 4.5, and it's pretty good juice. I could probably get better elsewhere. Yeah, I'm going to take Jones over 4.5 hits allowed. We're not going to take anything else in this game and just move on to the next one. All right, next up we got the Mets and the Nationals. Scott 0-2 against Parker 5-4. Nerfy 53.1 based on what they've done this year. Probably going to pass on that one. Odds, We see that the Mets are slightly favored on the road, 8.5 across the board, no matter where you look. Looking at the bats, Mets are still mostly on fire. Runs, 7 runs a game, the last 3 for 4th place in majors. 231 batting. They're starting to fall down in the batting area. Even though they batted 268 in the last game, their averages aren't that good. They're middle of the road, but the runs are still coming in, which is weird. And they are striking out a lot. 11.7 for 29th in the majors, including 14 in their last game. So we will be looking at some Parker strikeouts. Washington, on the other hand, 3 runs a game for 24th, 190 batting average for 26, and they're only striking out 9.7. So Mets clearly have the offensive advantage. Looking at pitching, we have Parker, 3.32 with the 1.12, hasn't faced the Mets, which is probably a good thing for him because they're on fire, but his numbers haven't been bad. His worst game was a 6-4 against Colorado, and it was at Coors. So if that's your worst game in the whole month of June, I mean, I'll take that. That's good numbers. Scott, on the other hand, you can see he hasn't pitched since May 30. He didn't pitch the entire month of June. He took the month off. So you can see his numbers. He gives up a couple runs here and there. That's beneficial to help Washington's, lackluster offenses. I'll call it that. Let's be nice to him. So to me, it's pretty obvious. Washington has the pitching advantage. New York has the batting advantage. They cancel each other out. I can't take a side. Total 8.5 across the board with no movement. It's like they copy and paste each other's line here. I can't. There's nothing to signify which way to go. So we're going to pass on the total. We are going to look at a prop, and I said we're going to look at strikeouts. So let's start with Parker. 4.5 is his number. And we see that the Mets, even though they're on fire, they're swinging and missing a lot. They struck out 14 times in their last game, 11.7 average in their last 3 for 29th. Yeah, I'm going to take Parker over 4.5 strikeouts for sure. You can see what he's done. He's hit it in the last 10 games. You can see it's plus money. It's even money, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to take that. Over 4.5. If the Mets are going to swing and miss, they're going to swing and miss against this guy too. So I'll take that. Scott, there's not enough data. He's been gone for a month. We need to see what he does in his first game back. So the only thing that's standing out in this one, we're not taking the side. We're not taking the total. We're not taking a Nerfy. All we're taking is the Parker over 4.5 strikeouts. That's it in this one. Next game. Next up is Cincinnati in New York. We get Abbott 7-6 against Rodon 9-5. Nervy 45.4 based on what they've done this year. Probably a pass with these pitchers. Looking at the odds, we see the Yankees are a heavy favorite at home. 8.5 the total across the board. Looking at the bats, we see kind of even. 4.7 and 5 for each team in the last 3 for runs. No big difference. 196 for the Reds in the last 3 for 24th. Meanwhile, the Yankees 241 for 14th. Slight advantage Yankees with the bats. 8.7 and 9 on strikeouts. Both middle of the road. Nothing really stands out there. Pitching, Abbott has not faced the Yankees recently. You can see these are pretty good numbers. Nothing outside of the St. Louis game. His month of June was pretty good. We're in July now. May was, almost 2 months ago now. So that was his worst game. Rodon, on the other hand, dude has had, he's been going through his last 2 games. Last 2 games combined, 21 hits, 15 earned runs, and only 11 strikeouts. Dude has been, and then before that, 7-5 against Boston. It's been rough. Now, do we expect him to bounce back? I don't know. So, I don't know. The one thing I am going to look at, we're going to pop over to Outlier and look at his props. We can see what he's done. The number for earned runs is 2.5, and it's plus money. I got to take it. I don't care what's happening in this game. I'm taking this because baseball players have trends. If he comes out and pitches a gem and only gives up 1-2 runs, hey, congratulations, you took my money. But I'm going to ride this wave and see if maybe he'll give up 4. Hey, whatever. So we're taking Rodon over 2.5 earned runs for sure. Strikeouts, I'm not going to mess with. They're not really standing out. K's, hits, none of those really stand out to me. Abbott, on the other hand, nothing's really standing out for him. His hits kind of stand out, but I don't really trust the Yankees bats, to be honest. They're not that great. So if anything, I'm going to take Rodon on the over 2.5. We're going to pop back to the odds here to see the rest of the stuff. 8.5 total. I mean, Rodon's pitching. He gives up a lot. We see the bats where they are. Abbott gives up some. 8.5 might be good, but I'm going to lay off that too. We're trying to be a little more conservative today than we were yesterday. So we're taking Rodon. We're going to pass on the over-under. if I'm taking Rodon to give up runs, that means I think Cincy's going to score runs, and if the Cincy scores runs, I think Cincy can win because looking at the bats and everything, and I think Rodon I think he's falling apart. Looking at these stats, you can see that it's not good. I am going to throw my hard-earned coin on Cincy money line today at plus 155, 160, yeah, 155. There might be more. If I wait closer, it might be 60, 70 by the time the game starts. So we're going Cincy money line as well, plus Rodon over 2.5 earned runs in this one. That's all we're going to take and move on to the next one. All right, next up, we got Houston and Toronto. We got Blanco 8-3 against Kikuchi 4-8. Nerfy is 60.08 based on what has happened this year with these teams. With these pitchers, maybe. We'll see. Money line is basically a pick 'em, slight favorite to Houston, 8.5 across the board with the total. Looking at the bats, big difference. 6.3 versus 3.0, massive advantage for Houston. 250 versus 156 for Toronto. That's a big advantage, Houston. 6.7 versus 9 strikeouts. Again, advantage Houston. Houston has big advantages with the bats in the last few games. Toronto is struggling. Looking at the pitching, Blanco has been pretty good. He gave up 6 hits and 3 earned against the Mets, which we know the Mets are on fire. 4-1 against Baltimore. A gem against Detroit. Just, you can see, just a couple games he gave up 4, but there's one trend in here I'm noticing. He doesn't give up many hits, so we are going to look at his hit prop and see if we might be taking under in that. Strikeouts, we'll probably look at 2 just to see, because he does have a couple 8s out there. Kikuchi, on the other hand, has been not as good. 4-4-5, gem against Milwaukee. 4, not so good against Pitt, not so good against Detroit, you can see, so he gives up runs himself. Blanco gives up 4 runs occasionally. Kikuchi gives up more. So just based on this alone, based on the bats, based on the pitching, I would say Houston has the advantage in the pitching. Houston has the advantage in the bats. The odds are almost a pick 'em. I'm taking Houston on the money line for sure. Let me make sure I add that to my list real quick. What I do is I read all these, break it down, and then after I'm done, I go lock all the bets in because I have to look at a bunch of different books. Gotta find the best. You always should be line shopping. Look for the best. If you have one book, you're doing it wrong. You should have multiple. You should have 10, 12. There are plenty of books out there. Always be line shopping. So Houston money line for sure. And on top of that, total, I'm not going to touch the total. And I don't like that total. That's not, no, we're going to pass on that. So we're doing Houston money line. Let's pop over to some Blanco hits. You can see over 5.5. We'll go under 5.5 here and see what we get. And you can see he's been under every game except his last one against the Mets. We know the Mets are hot. And we see that Toronto is ice cold with the bats at 156. Yeah, we're going to go under 5.5 hits. And it looks like you can even get plus 115, plus 105 MGM. Yeah, so yeah, all day. So we're going to go under 5.5 hits allowed. That's probably enough for this game. I don't really like anything else. Kikuchi doesn't really have anything. I don't want to take like giving up runs and hits with him because you can see he gives up some, but that's not something. Earned runs, that's potential, but it's 2.5. If it was lower, if it was 1.5, maybe, but I'll lay off on that. I got Houston money line. I got under 5.5 hits allowed for Blanco. That's good enough for me. I'm going to move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got the Giants and the Braves. We got Hicks 4-4 against Sale 10-3. Nerfy 48.7. We haven't had a Nerfy yet that looked decent to take. So, and I don't think we'll have another one here. So looking at the odds, Braves, heavy favorite because Sale's pitching, let's be honest. 8, 7.5 across the board for the totals out there. Looking at the bats, we see 7.3 runs in the last 3 for the Giants. Meanwhile, 2.3 runs in the last 3 for the Braves. Big, massive advantage for San Fran in the runs. 328 for second in the majors. Meanwhile, 204 for the Braves for 22nd. Again, that is a 124-point difference in batting average. Big advantage, San Fran. 7.7 versus 10. So it's clear San Fran's offense is on fire. Atlanta is where they've been for the past month, almost month and a half now. They've been cold. So clear advantage, San Fran. Pitching, Hicks is going out there, has not faced the Braves recently. You can see he does give up some runs. St. Louis got him for a little bit. He did do good the first time against the Cubs, but then gave up 3 to Houston. Not bad numbers. Hits, yeah, but I can't trust him These are decent numbers. I don't trust him shutting down the Braves because they're not doing good, and I don't trust the Braves getting anything off of him. So, and on the flip side, we got Sale. We got the fire offense of San Fran versus Sale, who 4-1 against, it was the White Sox, let's be honest here. 1 against the Yankees, 5-2, 5-2, and Oakland got him. The weird Oakland game. So, but you can see his strikeouts are just, dude just strikes everybody out. Only problem is now he's facing San Fran, who's second in the majors in batting average at what, 328? Let's go ahead and pop on over to his strikeouts. So you can see here, last 10, he's hit his number 7.5. First off, he's hit it 8 out of 10 times. One time he didn't hit it was against Tampa, and another time was against that game against Oakland. So, but the only thing is, it's heavily juiced over 7.5, and this is some razor thin margins right here. So I know a lot of people are going to take his strikeouts today. It's going to be all over Twitter. I get it. I'm not going to do it. I just don't like that. That does not stand out to me. And Hicks, I looked at his stuff. Nothing stands out when it comes to like giving up runs. I don't trust Braves offense. So looking at the odds and everything, looking at the bats, looking at the props, nothing is standing out in this game. So for me, this entire game is going to be a pass. I'm moving on to the next one. All right, next up, Philly and the Cubs. We've got Wheeler 9-4 up against Amanaga 7-2. You can see the ERAs. Murphy 46.0 based on what they've done this year. Looking at the odds, we see Philly's a slight favorite on the road, 7.5 of the totals. Bats, they favor Philly. 5.0 runs versus 3.3 the last three. 269 versus 163. That is a 106-point batting average difference. That's a big advantage for Philly. 11 versus 9 on strikeouts. Philly is striking out a good bit here recently. So we will look at some Shota, however you say it, his strikeout props. And we will look at some Wheeler hit allowed props, because if you're batting 163 for Chicago, I don't think you're going to hit many balls. So we'll look at that too. So pitchers, let's look at Wheeler a little closer. You can see 273 with a .98 whip. You could, he gave up a couple against Miami, but he pitched a gem against Arizona, got roughed up against Baltimore. His number's still great, which tells you how great he's been all year. So 3-1, 5-1. He pitches 7 innings. If he's sailing along smoothly, he's going to pitch 7 innings. You can see his pitch count's crazy high sometimes too, especially with his last one being 115. I expect him to pitch less innings this time too. So maybe he only gets 6 in instead of 7. So we'll see. Other side for the Cubs, 307, 111. He had a triple double on the board. Didn't get 5 and 3 against San Fran. You could see he bounced back, but is he going to stay that way? Was this a one-off, just a terrible game, or is it going to be he's going to start doing this, give a 3, 4, 5? Yeah, it's up in the air. So to me, Wheeler has the advantage in the pitching. The bats, Philly has the advantage in the bats. Odds, Philly is a slight favorite. Yeah, I'm going to take Philly on the money line for sure in this one. I don't care if the Stars are out. I don't care. These numbers are based recently, and they haven't been there for at least 3 games now. So they're still getting 5 runs, and they're still batting 269. So Philly money line all day in this one. Total of 7.5. I don't want to take because I don't trust the Cubs offense to help that at all. And Philly might hit that themselves, but then again, they might not. So no point in taking it. So Philly money line for sure. Now we're going to pop over to old outlier here and see what the props are. Wheeler under 4.5 hits. You can see, 4.5 is the number. It's up and down for him. It's very up and down. It's kind of sketchy. It's plus money. We can see that he might give up 5. I'm going to pass on that. I thought about it, but I'm looking at it now. I'm going to pass on it. And old Shota here, strikeouts against Philly, because as we see, Philly is 27th in strikeouts in their last 3 for 11, and they struck out 11 in the last game. We can go back over here and see his strikeout number is, it's 5.5. I think outside these last 2 games it was the Cubs and the Mets. I mean, not the Mets. It was the Giants and the Mets. And the Mets have been on fire, and we just saw the Giants are on fire. So that makes sense. So I think I'm going to go over 5.5 strikeouts here, because I think Philly's going to keep swinging and missing. Their stars are still out. So we got, we're going to take over 5.5 strikeouts here at pretty much, even money here. Or not even, just normal minus 110. Add that to the Philly money line and just move on to the next game. All right, next up we got San Diego and Texas. We got Mazur 1-2 up against Gray 3-4. Murphy 47.7. Again, not looking good with these pitchers. Looking at the odds, we see Texas is a decent favorite at home, 8.5 and 9s across the board for the totals. Bats, you see San Diego 4.0 their last three, meanwhile Texas 7.7 their last three. Advantage Texas, 248 versus 296. That's a 50-point advantage. That's advantage Texas. 6.3 for strikeouts because San Diego is always in the top 5. And Texas is 7 for 5th, so no strikeout props in this one probably. Looking at the pitchers, Gray has been the definition of a roller coaster. 11 and 9 against the Mets, 2-hit gem against KC, and then 9 and 8 against Baltimore. So we don't know what we're going to get. This is Jekyll and Hyde all day right here. So I'm leaving that alone. I don't trust that at all because, I mean, come on. Let's be honest. Mazur, he's more consistent at least. He gave up triple eights against Arizona, but 2, 3, 4, next in line's 5. So we expect him to give up a handful of runs, maybe 3-ish runs. Gray, we don't know. He's not consistent because before these 3 games, you could see if I pop over to Outlier and his earned runs, he was consistent 1-2, 1-1-2, 1-0-2-1. Almost binary code he's just reading off, but now 9-0-8 on earned runs. I can't trust that. I can't do anything with that because I don't know what we're going to get. I need consistency with my bets here. So with the odds being where they are and the bats being where they are, because Texas has the offensive advantage, let's be honest. It sounds weird, but I feel San Diego has the advantage because at least they're consistent with their pitching. Gray's had 2 way terrible games. These games are awful. Like, these are terrible. So does anyone have an advantage? Is that a thing? Can neither team have an advantage in pitching because they're just so bad? That could be a thing. So odds, they're 8.5 and 9. I'm going to take the over 8.5 because both pitchers give up a bunch of runs. Mazur's consistently giving up runs, and Gray, it's like rolling the dice. You might hit it, you might not. So I'm going to take over this one. We got 8.5s out there. We're not taking a side. No shot. We're not taking any props. Not doing anything. I'm going to take over 8.5, sit back, root for runs, and move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got Tampa Bay and Kansas City. Pepio 4-4 against Waka and a 4-6. 41.4 Nerfy. Probably not with these pitchers, but maybe. We'll see. Odds, it's a pick 'em across the board. And the total hasn't moved. The odds hasn't moved. That should tell you something right there. There's no real difference between all the books. Looking at the bats, we see they're about the same. 3.7 versus 3, slight advantage Tampa in the last 3. 213 versus 237, slight advantage Kansas City. 8.7 to 7 strikeouts. They're about the same. There's no real difference. Only thing we see is Tampa's trending up a little bit. Kansas City's trending down a little bit. That's it. But other than that, there's no real advantage. Pitching, we got Walker going out there with 3.91 with a 1.25. Has faced Tampa recently. It was on May 26th. 3 hits, 2 earned, 7 strikeouts. In a loss, a 4-1 loss. Outside of that, 7-1 against Cleveland, 3-1 against Texas, 5-2 San Diego. These are good numbers. He's a good pitcher. That's what you get. Pepio, on the other hand, 4.4, 109, has not faced KC, but had a great game. 6-5 against the Braves, 9-4 against Baltimore, 6-3. He's been a little more giving with runs. So I would say Walker has an advantage right now when it comes to pitching. So we have KC with a slight advantage of pitching. Batting, I would say it's a wash. They're the same. There's no real difference. So far, we have nothing really to lean on. So I'm not taking a side, and I'm not taking a total. And looking at the props for both these pitchers, earned runs, if you want to, there's nothing that stands out. Everything's in the middle. There's nothing in the way. So that's Walker. Looking at Pepio, earned runs, strikeouts, hits. It's just up and there's nothing. This game, these two teams are too equal. Hence the why everything's a pick 'em and nothing's moved. The total is 8.5. You can tell it hasn't moved. It hasn't moved for a reason because no one's playing this game. So I'm going to follow suit. I'm not going to touch anything. We're going to pass and move on to the next game. All right, next we got Detroit and Minnesota. Montero 0-2 against Festa 1-0. Nerfy 42.8. No chance with these pitchers, I'll tell you right now. Looking at the odds, they're all over the place. You can see Minnesota's gotten some movement as a favorite. 9 with 9.5 out there for the total. Bats, they're the same in runs for 11th at 5 runs a game the last 3. 196 batting for Detroit and 250 for Minnesota. Advantage Minnesota. Detroit struggling. 7 versus 8.7 on strikeouts. They're both top 11. Nothing to talk about there. Pitching is the fun stuff here because it makes it hard. Dude has pitched 2 games this year. Last one was June 26th against Philly. 4 innings, 5 hit, 5 earned, 6 Ks. Before that was May 29th. 5 hits, 4 earned, 5K. So the dude's going to strike some people out. The dude's also going to give up some runs. So we haven't, if this is average game, we haven't seen a good game or a bad game yet. So we don't know. Festa has done 1 game, 7 hits, 5 earned against Arizona on the 27th and 2K. So we have 2 pitchers that all they know to do is give up 4 or 5 runs. That's all they do. So with the odds being where they are, the bats being where they are, we have over under of 9 out there, and I can get 9 at basically close to even money, maybe a little. Yeah, so we'll take over 9 because we got pitchers that shown they can't shut anyone down. Given, let's be honest, it's only 3 total games between the two, but still, I'm not looking at props with these because we don't have enough data to really have props, so we can't look at trends. All I'm going to do is take the over of 9 in this one. We're not even going to take a side because, yeah, Minnesota has the advantage in bats, but their pitchers only pitch 1 time. At least Detroit's a pitch twice. So see, it's one of those weird ones. I probably should lay off completely. Let's be honest. This is a game you should completely leave alone because these 2 pitchers we don't know. But I want to have fun. I've already passed on 4 games. So I'm going to take the over of 9 in this one and move on to the next one. All right, next up, we got Milwaukee and Colorado. Rays 7-2 against Hudson 2-11. Nerfy 44.8. The Yerfy's highlight in this one. No Nerfy in this one. Sorry, not with these pitchers. You can see Milwaukee is pretty heavily favored on the road. 11.5 across the board out there. Looking at the bats, we see Milwaukee 6 runs a game for 7th. Colorado 5.3 runs a game for 9th. Milwaukee's batting 330. Colorado's batting 226. That's a 104-point difference in bats, so advantage Milwaukee. 6.3 for tied for first, where Milwaukee would tie with San Diego. Colorado 11.3 for 28. So we're going to look at some Ray strikeouts for sure, just to see what we got there. Looking at the pitching, we can see Ray has not faced Colorado, but you can see he gives up some runs. San Diego got him for a little bit, but outside of that, 2-2, 1-0, 1 out. I say some, 2 is some technically, but not much. So he had one outlier game, but then most of his games have been pretty good. Hudson is the one I went really gives up runs. White Sox got him for 5, 11 for 8 if he gets Washington, 7 for 3, 4-2, 5-4. We don't know how many innings he's going to make it because dude just gives up runs. He's not that good. Let's be honest here. So we have an advantage Milwaukee in the pitching. We have advantage Milwaukee in the batting. The odds have Milwaukee pretty heavily favored. So if you want, you could take that. This has been a weird series overall. Weird games are happening all the time in this one. So I'm not going to take it because I just don't want to. Just when you get those feelings of games you just feel like you shouldn't mess with, the total, the side is one of those ones I have a feeling about. I'm not taking the over of 11 or 11.5 today. Not today. You're not getting me 2 days in a row. Don't think so. I am going to go to some props, like I said I would. First thing I'm going to notice is let's look at Colorado and their strikeouts. You can see they are 28th with 11.3. So I'm going to pop over to Ray strikeouts and see over 4.5 is plus 110. His last game is against Cubs. He struck out 8. Yeah, I'm going to take over 4.5 strikeouts for Ray in this one because Colorado apparently is swinging and missing a good bit. And Hudson, I looked at the earned runs, the hits. Nothing's really standing out in this one. The numbers are a little high. So the only thing we're going to do is take the Ray over 4.5 strikeouts. We're not touching the money line or the total or the Nerfy. Just over strikeouts for Ray. Move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got LA and Oakland. We got Daniel 1-0, given only 8 innings against Estes 2-3. Nerfy 62.5. Maybe with these pitchers, we'll see. Looking at the odds, we see it's about a pick across the board. 8.5 to the totals out there. On the bats, we see the Angels have the advantage here. Let's be honest. 5.7 versus 2.7 on the runs in the last 3. 279 versus 154. That is what, 125-point difference in the bats. Ugh, terrible. So big advantage LA. 9.3 versus 9.7 on strikeouts. So we can see Oakland is struggling to hit, and the Angels are top 8 and 6 in runs and average. So that's a big gap difference. We'll see if the pitching helps out at all. Davis Daniel, Mr. 2 first names here, or first name, last name, swapped. It's weird. It's a tongue twister here. He's pitched 1 game. 8 innings, 4 hits, gem against Detroit his first game. We tend to fade guys, but this dude said, nah, you ain't fade me, bruh. 8 Ks against Detroit, great game. Estes, on the other hand, he's not bad. Seattle for 1, 8 for 3 against San Diego. Minnesota 5-2 when the Minnesota was hot. 3-2 against LA in the last time he faced them, and that was literally the last game on the 26th. So, and when batters and pitchers face each other the second time around, the hitters have more of an advantage because they've seen the motion, they've seen the throws, they've seen everything. So, do I expect him to give up more here? Probably so. A little bit, maybe 4 or 5 hits instead of 3, maybe an earned run, 2, maybe a home run even. So outside of that, we have Davis here who has pitched 1 game, so we don't know much about him. So we could do what we want here. So the main thing I'm seeing is that the Angels are just on fire with the bats. I think Davis here can shut down Oakland's woeful offense. So with the odds being to pick them, I'm going to take the Angels on the money line for sure. There's nothing we don't have enough stats for this dude to really look at props. And I looked at his props. We can pop it over and look at them. You can see his props, his earned runs are all over the place. Strikeouts are pretty close. That's a razor thin margins. I don't want to do that against the Angels. Hits, the Angels might get hit. I'd see there's nothing that stands out. Nothing looks good. Nothing looks like tasty. So we're going to pass on those. The only thing we're going to take in this one is we are going to take the Angels money line and just move on to the next game. All right, next up we got Baltimore and Seattle. Kramer 3-4 against Gilbert 5-4. Nerfy 68.8. I took the Nerfy in this game yesterday. It hits. I've taken the Nerfy in Baltimore road games a ton this year, and I think all but like a couple have hit because Baltimore is allergic to scoring runs in the first inning. They're at 89.7% of their road games they have not scored in the first inning. Seattle 76.7 of their home games they haven't scored. You multiply them together, that's how you get the 68.8 probability based on what they've done this year. We mix in the pitching and everything. The Nerfy is 100% on the table. Let's go ahead and jump to it now. Let's just go ahead and jump to the bats. You can see both teams are struggling to score runs. 22nd and 23rd at 3.3 and 1.3. 232 batting for Baltimore, 175 for Seattle. And we have these pitchers. We got Kramer, who it's his first game since May 20th. I get that. First game back, always might be a little rusty, but you're facing Seattle, who has a 175 average in the last 3 games. Nah, bro. No, you got this. You can do it. I don't care. So, and then Gilbert is just a beast. He hasn't faced Baltimore recently, but the dude's a beast. Let's be honest. He's one of the top pitchers in the league. So for me, I'm going to be taking the Nerfy 100% in this one. So back to the normal odds. We've got money line that's going to be favoring Seattle. We got 7s out there with 1.7.5. We already see the bats here. Trend line's down. It's going to be a lower scoring game because of the pitchers, unless for some reason Kramer gets creamed. That's the only thing I can think of that stands out, because he did have a rough game in his last one against St. Louis, but he went out for a month after that. So, but before that, 3-2-2-0-3-5. Gilbert's better numbers. I'm going to say I think Seattle has the advantage of the pitching. We know Baltimore slightly has the advantage of batting. They're a wash. They don't do much. We're going to take the Nerfy on this one. We're not even going to look at props. We're just going to take the Nerfy, take 6 quick outs, relax, and move on to the next game. All right, last game, Arizona Dodgers. Apparently Montgomery's pitching for Arizona. No one else has that listed yet. A lot of places say undecided. I don't have props for him yet. But apparently Fantasy Pros is where I get the pitching matchups from. Has him as a starter, 6-5 against Stone, 9-2. Nerfy 41.8. Probably not with these pitchers. Looking at the odds, we see Dodgers are a 220 money line favorite. Heavy favorite. Totals are 9, 9.5. MGM they don't even know who's pitching. That's why there's no lines. See, so it's a little hard. Looking at the bats, we do see that the Dodgers have a big advantage with the bats. 8 runs a game in the last 3 for first. Meanwhile, Arizona's only getting 4.3, 303. Both of them hitting 303 for averages for third. There's high for third, so that's pretty good. 6.3 for 7.3. Neither team is really striking out. So we have advantages Dodgers in the runs, but both teams are swinging the bats over 300. The odds being 9, 9.5. That's we got to see the pitching. So all we can do is look at Stone. That's all we got. So in his few games, we can see he's given up 2 or 3 a couple times, a couple gems. He complete game 4 hit gem against the White Sox in his last outing. Is he going to pitch the 103 pitches again? I doubt it. He's probably going to be closer in the 70s to counteract that, because they don't want to kill his arm. So we'll see what they do with him. Probably maybe even closer to 5 innings for him this time. So either way, dude was a beast. That ESPN hasn't put up if it's Montgomery or not, so we're not going to look at that. And with that being said, with the whole setup like it is, and we don't know what's really going to happen. I really can't take a side in this one. So for me, I'm just going to pass this entire game and move on. Now, it might update later throughout the day. That's why I showed everything. So, but for right now, since I don't know anything, I'm going to pass. If I do decide to play this game, I will update a comment or whatever, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, I'll update and say I'm taking this play. So, but for right now, I'm passing on this game. All right, that's it. That's all 15 games broken down. We went through a lot of games. I had a lot of passes, but we had a lot of props recently because using something like Outlier has been helping me to do more props, give out more statistical data for you guys, because I know a lot of people love playing props. If you like Outlier, use the link in the description. Go get you a free trial. Check it out. Let me know what you think, because I love it. It's amazing. I went 5-2 yesterday on props using it, so I'm going to keep using it. So, and they're cool to work with. I got a lot. I can't lie. They're doing good. So overall, for the recap, let's run through this real quick. Boston and Miami is going to be a pass completely. White Sox and Cleveland, that's a pass as well. St. Louis and Pitt, we're going to take Jones over 4.5 hits allowed. Mets in Washington, Parker over 4.5 strikeouts. Cincy and the Yankees, we're going to take Rodon over 2.5 earned runs, and then we're going to throw a little unit on Cincy money line plus 155 or more. We'll see what happens there. Houston, Toronto, we're going to take the Houston money line along with under 5.5 hits allowed for Blanco, Houston pitcher. San Fran and Atlanta is a pass completely. Philly and the Cubs, we're going to take the Philly money line, but we're going to take Shota over 5.5 strikeouts. San Diego and Texas is going to go over 8.5. Tampa Bay and Kansas City, pass, leaving that game alone. Detroit, Minnesota, I'm going to take over 9. You should probably leave it alone, but I'm going to take over 9 in that one. Milwaukee and Colorado, all I'm taking is over 4.5 strikeouts for Colin Ray. Angels and Oakland, I'm taking the Angels money line. Baltimore and Seattle, I'm rocking with a Nerfy. That's it, nothing else. Last game, Arizona Dodgers. For now, it's a pass, but if it changes, I will update later once we know officially who the pitcher is. So that's it. I appreciate everybody watching the entire video. I appreciate you liking, subscribing, sharing the video, all of this. Without you being here, I can't do this. This is fun to do, and we're trying to build the channel. We want to build for baseball so we can grow into football, into basketball, and whatnot moving forward. So I appreciate everybody being here, and we will see you tomorrow. Peace.